Airlines are expected to make a total net profit of $6.7 billion in 2012. This is according to the International Air Transport Association's latest forecast on the global profitability of the industry as a whole. The association expects this number to increase to $8.4 billion in 2014. Joining us now for a look at the airlines industry in East Africa is Cornwall Mulea, CEO of Aircraft Leasing Services. Mr. Mulea, thank you so much for joining us here on Beyond Markets. Give us a sense of the kind of market share that, airlines have in East Africa, as a block player, as a regional player, when one takes account of the entire continent.
Yeah, I think in East Africa, the airlines have got a robust market share because of the positioning, for example, here in Kenya. I think Nairobi is a major hub for interconnections, not only to the west part of Africa, but also to the Middle East as well as to Asia. So it's a region that has seen substantial growth over the years in terms of aviation.
Mm-hmm. What would you attribute as the key drivers of that growth? Is it an increase in air travel? Is it cargo? Is it leasing of space? What are the drivers here? Is it a combination of all of these factors?
It is a combination, but I think the biggest driver is that demand is rising. There is a lot of activity in terms of economic activities in the region as well as in Africa in general. And Nairobi offers probably the best connections with the best carrier in the region, with the biggest carrier in the region, which is Kenya Airways, going to southern part of Africa, the western part of Africa, as well as connecting most of the cities in Central Africa to the Middle East as well as to Asia for business. So these are the key drivers really that we have seen. Mm-hmm. In addition to that, business activity has been increasing with the discovery of commodities in the region. There are activities in mining, there are activities in the oil sector, oil and gas. So all these have brought about more increased business activity in the region.
Now, of course, traditionally, the airline industry is dominated by state airlines or state carriers, which play a large role, in this industry. Take us through some of the advances that the private sector has made in this industry. And if one were to compare, are they beginning to take up more, market share, or does state carriers still, remain dominant within East Africa?
When we look at the global perspective, obviously African aviation activity is only 3%. So if we look in terms of those numbers, it is still a very small sector. But looking at the activities in East Africa itself, I think the private sector has been taking on more and more leading role in niche markets. For example, in our business, we operate mainly through contracts with customers offering ACMI services to the industry, and we are the largest supplier of that type of service to the United Nations, for example, for all humanitarian activities, as well as to the International Committee for Red Cross. So the markets have been demarcated, whereas the scheduled airlines are still dominated, yes, by the state carriers and the other carriers in which the state is involved.
But of course, the global climate hasn't been kind to the airline industry. We've seen many small airline operators going bankrupt, there's increasing fuel costs and so on. As a kind of final word on the outlook, what is your sense of the industry going forward, particularly in a depressed global environment?
For Africa, I think the outlook is robust. With increased industry activity as we have seen, I think we believe that the rates that we are seeing of growth of around 5-6% per annum will continue. What it requires is obviously targeted investments and to sustain the airlines that are there through restructuring processes and consolidation. Currently, most of the airlines are too small for long-term viability, and therefore there is need for airlines to continue to cooperate in order to take advantage of the growth that we see. Otherwise, carriers from other regions are going to reap the fruits.